بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. قال الله في كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس إن وعد الله حق فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the Holy Quran of Surah Fatir, the fifth ayah, goes on to speak about a very important lesson or a very important ideal which we must implement throughout our entire lives. It's a command. He's ordering us. He says that, O people, this is not just for Muslims, this is just not for believers, this isn't specific to a certain group, but it's for the world. O people, indeed the vow and oath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is true. In other words, a day of judgment shall pass. فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. So do not allow the world to make you ignorant of that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded you. Don't allow it to make you ignorant of that final day. وَلَا يَغُرَّنَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغُرُورِ. And do not allow Satan, the devil, to also make you ignorant. صدق الله العلي العظيم. To illuminate our hearts and minds once more, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Tonight marks the 12th night of the 12th day of Moharram, but today we have experienced the 11th day. Now, before, in our previous discussions, in our previous meetings, in our previous nights, we went over something very important. That we, lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, lovers of the Imam Hussein alayhimus salam, start the month of Muharram as the start to grief for Ashura. Although almost everything we know about Karbala, what happened to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the devastations and tragedies on the family of the Prophet, everything, all of those happened almost within the day of Ashura. The 10th of Muharram, we start earlier. It is a tradition that we've picked up from the Ahlul Bayt themselves. So, the 10th of Muharram passed. Today was the 11th day. Does that mean that everything that was within Karbala also is over? Does that mean it's finished? Tonight, we will be reminding ourselves through the verse which was recited in the beginning and also through what happens after Karbala, that although a lot of the tragedies happened within the 10th day of Muharram, in other words Ashura, there is still a continuation and an ongoing event. And we shouldn't slack or be lazy about these events, because that's exactly what none other than the devil wants for you himself. We shall analyze this inshaAllah with a salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. The verse which is recited in the beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Fatir speaks to all of mankind. And He says that, O people of the world, Ya ayyuhan nas, O humankind, indeed there will be a day of judgment that shall pass. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made many oaths and many vows, and He is true to His word. There shall be a day of judgment, a day in which you will be tested and you will be given according to what you have done. So if you do good, you'll be rewarded. If you do bad, you'll be compensated based on that. And in the continuation, He tells us a very important thing, that do not let the world, do not let the dunya make you ignorant of those vows, of that ideal that there will be a day of judgment that shall pass. This world isn't eternal. This world isn't forever. This world is something that is only here to come and go. It's something temporary. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very specific when He says that do not let the world, it's a temporary world, do not let this world make you ignorant of that final destination, the hereafter, the day of judgment. And more so, He goes on to say that on top of that, do not let the gharur, the ignorance, the prideful also make you along with him prideful or ignorant of that hereafter. In other words, Satan, the devil. He was an ignorant individual, a prideful individual. And at the end of the day, now he's among those who will not be faced with much cheer or jolly within that final destination. In other words, the hereafter. The 10th of Muharram passed. The day of Ashura passed. But that doesn't mean those things that happened within Karbala are over. One half of what happened within Karbala was in Ashura. The second half, we're just stepping into it. Nowadays, since the 10th of Ashura passed, there are a lot of individuals, of brothers and sisters, although we do not shame and we do not attack anyone because of this, but there are some, or maybe some, who are now finding it time to slack, take it easy, and you know it's over, it's done with, let me put it aside. But after the 10th day of Ashura, the 10th day of Muharram, what happened to the family of the Imam Hussein alayhi salam after the martyrdom happened? After Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, the tents were burned and the women were captivated. They were sent to Kufa. And so within this journey itself, we see that there are a lot of tribulations and challenges, that we can't just say that Karbala finished in the 10th of Muharram, that's it, it's over. But no, it still has a continuation. There are still things that are happening. On this 11th day, on this 11th night, the family of the Imam Hussein alayhi salam makes it to the destination of Kufa, where Ibn Ziyad himself was residing. And before Ibn Ziyad were to take him into his court, into his room where they would be judged, they were made a public mockery within the people of that city. Now, after the Imam Hussein alayhi salam passed, there were some individuals, around the vicinity of Karbala that were aware who the Prophet's family was, who were the individuals who were slain. But still, Ibn Ziyad, Umar ibn Sa'd, Yazid were very intelligent people. They knew how to block off info and not allow anyone to find out who these individuals who were trapped and captured or captivated were. And so the people of Kufa, upon the arrival of these captives, the lady Zainab, the women, the children, the Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, it was a public mockery for them. They used them as a means to make fun, to call out transgressors, those who rebelled against the leader of their time, Yazid ibn Muawiyah. And so, just looking at this instance, there are still more that go after. We already are getting a hint that Karbala didn't end on the 10th of Muharram, but there is still more that goes on. Although there is still more that goes on, there are many of us who might be faced with the challenge or the slack, the laziness, that, the 10th of Muharram is finished. There might be things happening after. That's fine. The 10th of Muharram was all that's important to me. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the verse of Surah Al-Fatir, the 5th ayah, literally tells us that do not let anything, the world, Satan be itself, make you ignorant or slack off on those important things. He gave the example of the day of judgment, the oath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa'dullah. But for us, in this instance, will be Karbala. Karbala didn't end just on the 10th, but it still has a continuation. Now, some might come and say that, well, I can't sacrifice enough for Karbala. I've got a life, I've got a job, I've got this, I've got that. Understanding religion as a part of life really helps us learn to apply religion not just as something separate, but our lifestyles in themselves. We know that there are many who start the month of Muharram from the 1st until the 10th, completely devoting themselves and dedicating themselves to the events of Karbala. But after that, they say that, well, I played my part here, I completely devoted myself, let me give myself a break. What we understand here is that they take their world life and their spiritual life and put them in separate hands. So does that still mean that based on this idea, on this concept, we can just forget about what happened on the 10th of Ashura and after? Not at all. In fact, within Karbala, we're taught that there is still an ongoing event. And that doesn't mean you slack off. When you slack off, it's because you decide to separate your spiritual life with your worldly and daily life. But no, within the Karbala, after the Karbala, we learned that life isn't something that you separate with your spirituality, but those two should come hand in hand. You shouldn't sacrifice one for the other because your spiritual life, in fact, is applied and implicated within your own daily lives themselves. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very clear. Once, we got to keep looking at this verse. And Surah Al-Fatir, He says that do not let the world make you ignorant of the day of judgment. Do not let the prideful, in other words, Satan, make you ignorant of the day of judgment. You live within this world. It doesn't mean that these are two separate things. You live in the dunya, but your life itself should be practiced spiritually. It's not something where you devote one time to this and one time to that. It's all put together in perfect balance. They come hand in hand. Tonight is the 11th day of Muharram, the 12th night of the 12th day of Muharram. And so yesterday, we had gone through a lot. We had faced a lot. Tonight, we kept it simple and kept it short. We are going to prepare ourselves for what's going to happen in the future, inshallah. Although sometimes we might not have official majalis, official meetings for what happens after that 10th day, let's keep in our minds and our understanding that although a lot of the things that happened within Karbala were within the first and 10th day, there is still a continuation that goes on after. And to take a recap and to take a quick look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Fatir says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, inna wa'dallahi haqq. Indeed, the oaths or vows of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are true. He doesn't go back on His word. فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. So do not allow the worldly life to make you ignorant of those vows, of those oaths of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يَغُرَّنَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغُرُورِ. And do not allow Satan to take away from you the opportunity to make use of Karbala within its fullest. He'll try to stop you and say the 10 days was enough. The 10 days you devoted everything, you made sacrifices. That's not how it works. Our spiritual life and our worldly lives are two things that come together. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq and success of becoming among the true Shi'as of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. May we be all alim and amil to the teachings of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin.